Folks, breaking news out of South Africa where the publication The Independent Online and the City Press have called for the resignation of MK Member of Parliament, former Black Land First and former EFF member Andile Mngxitama from Parliament, calling for his immediate resignation or removal from Parliament for a purportedly racist video that circulated about him calling for the death or the killing of people based on their skin pigmentation. This is earth-shattering news, folks, as the Independent Online and the City Press both tell this story. Stop. Full stop. That, ladies and gentlemen, is fake news or satire. Actually, the IOL has not called for the resignation. While gleefully leading the charge and the libel against a Democratic Alliance Member of Parliament, Renaldo Gouws, the Independent Online and City Press have failed to actually cover a story of an actual rogue sitting in South Africa's Parliament. Stay tuned for more analysis of this story.
Welcome back once again. This is Chris Report, and he assured me that since Simonstown and Boulders, folks, this is Chris Wyatt reporting from South Africa.
Ever since the Independent Line broke a story in which they used an altered video to mislead folks, well, I mean, you decide for yourself. Many of us have seen the actual video that's unedited, showing what was done in making a case, an argument against the illegitimacy of people like Julius Malema and Jacob Zuma singing songs to murder people based on skin pigmentation, taken completely out of context. Foul language, inappropriate, poor decision by someone in their 20s. Let's all agree on that. But the video was intended to undermine the character and the reputation of Renaldo Gouws, and the Independent Online either did this knowingly or they were hoodwinked. And rather admit that, in fact, the video that they surfaced and told people about was an altered video, they continue with the narrative, still calling Renaldo names that they have yet to substantiate. But they actually have run a story about this. They ran a story about former BLF and EFF member and current MP for the MK party, Andile Mngxitama. But the story is a little more than an, oh yes, we also cover the story sort of puff piece. If the IOL had not libeled Renaldo Gouws, then this story would indeed be an actual news story. But this story does not call Andile a racist and only alludes to the term when gratuitously interjecting their own dishonest story about Renaldo Gouws, calling him a racist after exposing an altered video to libel Gouws. 2. The IOL news story by Kamogelo Mochiela quotes a counter-petition to protect Andile by Umlaba Wetu, who defends the man calling for murder of people based on their skin pigmentation with this sad statement. Wetu said this attack on Mngxitama was an example of how racists worldwide disregard black lives and undermine the efforts of any persons who pursue redress. So redress of past wrongs includes murdering women, children, dogs, and cats? And redress of what exactly? Black supremacists and white leftists are so fond of calling anyone who questions this sort of dubious criminal conduct as racist or agents. But funny, it's Andile himself who was exposed as an agent of sorts. In July 2017, emails surfaced suggesting that Mngxitama received instructions from the Guptas and their contracted public relations company, Bell Pottinger, of course, white monopoly, capital fame. Now, the British Public Relations Communications Association subsequently suspended Bell Pottinger for 5 years for exploiting and creating racial divisions in South Africa, but nothing happened to Andile. Now, in the hateful video, the audio of which I've muted, Mngxitama can be heard saying, "We will blank the whites, we will blank their children, we will blank the women, we will blank their dogs and cats, we will blank anything that comes to us." Now, I say blank because on this platform, I will be censored if I play the video. Citizens Concerned can play the entire Renaldo video, which has some offensive language in it, and she doesn't suffer any consequences. However, if I play that video, I will suffer consequences, just like if I showed and listened to the audio on this one. So I can't play that. But you can find it all over Twitter and social media, what this man said. Now, a petition was started in response to that video to get him removed from Parliament. And as I said, the IOL did cover that story, but they did it rather disingenuously. Now, he's also been elevated. In April, he had an op-ed that appeared in City Press in which he attacked another black South African for his position regarding race relations. Now, here's some of the stuff that he said in his op-ed. All black people, irrespective of class, age, or gender, are available to systemic state violence. Well, Andile, all people. regardless of their skin hue, are susceptible to state violence. That's just a fact. Now, he says only Hadabe is confused about blackness, racism, and white supremacy or not. Racism, Andile, is something that anyone perpetuates regardless of their skin color, and it's directed against all people regardless of their skin color. He said Hadabe would do well to study why Africans were subjected to chattel slavery and no other race was, despite the almost universal practice of slavery. Okay, well, first off, the universal practice of slavery, how can it be universal if only black people were subjected to it? Second, slavery has existed for as long as humans have been around. And historically, more people that weren't black were in slavery than black Africans. And oh, by the way, black Africans were subjected to chattel slavery by black Africans for thousands of years until the Arabs came along with their goods and their desire for slaves. And then black Africans sold black Africans into slavery for 1,400 years in West Africa through the Sahel and through the Sahara. Meanwhile, sultanates were set up with the Arabs over in East Africa so black Africans could enslave black Africans into the Arab world from that side of Africa. And by the way, Irish were enslaved in the Caribbean, not indentured servants, but slaves. Icelanders were captured by Barbary pirates and enslaved in North Africa. Christians were enslaved in the Middle East. Russians were enslaved. The entire ethnic category of Slavs the word slave comes from that because they were slaves. The Vikings had slaves. The Romans had slaves. The Greeks had slaves. Remember the Helots from Sparta? They were slaves. He said the advent of civil rights has not humanized the black people in the U.S., hence the normalization of police killings of black people for just being black. Now that's horse manure. Horse manure. 45 million black Americans, and how many black Americans die in firearms-related incidents with law enforcement every year? Less than 400. Less than 400 out of 45 million. That's not the normalization of killing of black people. More whites are killed, and arguably that should be the case because whites outnumber blacks significantly. 12% of the population is black, and 75% is white. He said, we are oppressed because we are black people, and it's this reality we must mobilize to free ourselves. As Biko so painfully taught us, everything else is irrelevant. The heterogeneity of black people is not foundational. Our collective experience of oppression is what is foundational. No, your collective theory of victimization is what is foundational to your worldview. And if that's what you learned from Steve Biko, then you didn't understand anything about Steve Biko. The point of this whole video, the purpose of talking about this, is to expose the media lies in South Africa. While the IOL and several other publications, including now the Daily Maverick, failed to tell the truth about an altered video and the context, Renaldo Gouws, they allow this gentleman to get a free pass, who's now a member of parliament, and there's no outrage. This man has called for the killing of people based on their skin color. Now, if that's not a criminal act, if that's not bigotry, if that's not racist, then what is? What is? Apparently, in South Africa, the only people who can be guilty of racism have light skin color and are not leftist. Well, that, of course, is utter nonsense. Racists come in all skin hues and attack all groups. So, it's time for the Independent Line to do a real news story and admit that they exposed an altered video and that they were punked. Thanks a lot, folks. Catch you later. Take care. Cheers.